We are back with Locked On Ravens and Locked On Commanders with David Harrison of Locked On Commanders. I am Kevin Oestreicher of Locked On Ravens. Just a reminder here that this crossover Thursday edition of both Locked On Ravens and Locked On Commanders is brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Use code all lowercase LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. And be sure to subscribe to both Locked On Ravens and Locked On Commanders on YouTube and follow along wherever you get your favorite podcast. Now, David, there are so many things that have to go right for any NFL team to win a game, especially in a high-powered shootout, which I feel like is the prediction right now. A lot of people are expecting a lot of points and maybe not so much defense in this game. But from the Commanders side of things, what are 3 things they have to do in order to pull out this victory?
Oh, man, I think first and foremost, you got to play disciplined defensive aggression, right? You want to be aggressive. Joe Witt Jr., Dan Quinn, they want an aggressive defense. So you got to be disciplined in that aggression while you're trying to do that. Sticky coverage, we already kind of talked about it a little bit, but I think 2 times on defense, defensive discipline aggression, sticky coverage, and then on offense, exploit the middle of that Baltimore Ravens defense. Run the ball at least 17, 18 times. Keep them honest. Make sure the Baltimore Ravens understand you might have a really good run defense, but you got to use that thing because that's going to help you exploit the middle of that coverage. And that is where I think the Washington Commanders can make their money the most and help them try to get an upset win. Now, if Humphrey is out, changes things a little bit. Maybe you target the perimeter a little bit more, but still want to use that middle of the defense if you can.
And that to me is a really big one because at this point with this Ravens defense, they've had all sorts of issues on that side of the ball. And in the secondary, it's part of, I mentioned Marcus Williams, Brandon Stevens, who had a great year for them last year. One of his fatal flaws is he doesn't turn his head around on the ball. So he had a great pass breakup on T. Higgins. He had no idea that ball was coming. He just kind of stuck his hand up and got lucky with it. The ball kind of jots out there. So if Jayden is able to kind of confuse this Ravens defense a little bit, that's one area that I really, really think Washington could exploit. But here's the other part of this, David. Washington or any other team with a rookie quarterback, second-year quarterback, it's been tough if they've seen this Ravens defense for the first time for them to get momentum. Baltimore, the stat is 15-2, I believe it is, against rookie quarterbacks at home under John Harbaugh. Yeah. So this defense is complex despite whoever it is, Don Martindale, Dean Pease, Mike McDonald, Zach Orr. There's always a level of complexity. So when I'm thinking about the Ravens, I'm like, well, first of all, you got to make Jayden Daniels uncomfortable. Confuse Jayden Daniels, get him out of his element, and make him second guess himself on some of those throws. I think that's a big one. I also think establishing the run early is going to be really key for this team because, again, you want to be able to use your offense to its potential. Fast start kind of goes in there. And I've been saying it every week because I think now we have to say it here in Baltimore, 60 minutes of football. This game is not 3 quarters long. We know the narrative around Baltimore. And honestly, last week they flipped it on its head against Cincinnati. But those 3 things to me for Baltimore are the keys.
Yeah, I think that first one is going to be really challenging, right? And I think that's kind of the trick here is who is going to be the first one to figure out how to make Jayden Daniels uncomfortable, right? Because the thing about trying to make Jayden Daniels second guess himself is he doesn't second guess himself. Like that's just kind of part of his makeup is he believes his eyes. He sees what he sees. If he sees an opening, he goes for it. If he doesn't see an opening, he doesn't go for it and he goes for a different opening, right? He doesn't sit there and try to wait and figure it out. Well, maybe that's going to come open or maybe that's going to do this or maybe that's going to do that. He doesn't play those games. He's very matter of fact about it. And, the analogy that I've used about him, Commanders fans are going to get sick of me using these analogies, but I keep using them on crossover Thursdays because that's what Ravens fans haven't heard it yet, is if his house was on fire, he would gather all of his collectibles, all the things that he thinks are valuable in his home, and he would just stroll out the front door like nothing was happening because that dude has no panic in him. He's got no hurry in him. Now, again, week 1 did see that clock accelerated, but it wasn't a panic thing. It was just basically a rookie quarterback getting used to the speed of the NFL game going up against a very aggressive defensive coordinator in Todd Bowles. I'm actually very curious to see if the Ravens blitz more. I think it's a little bit of reputation over the years, but I actually expected when I started diving into this matchup that the Ravens were going to be one of the more blitzing teams in the league, but that's actually not the case. They like to bring 4 rushers a lot. They like to mix it up by having 2 down linemen, 3 down linemen, and then bring an extra guy who's standing up from somewhere else or an extra 2 guys from somewhere else. And that's definitely a way to get creative with it. But I'm curious to see if maybe they blitz a little bit more in this game than they have in other games. I think the blitz rate against Patrick Mahomes in week 1 was a little bit higher than the blitz rate all season long. So that could be an indication that might be what they're going to do, because again, Jayden's the kind of guy, if you let him sit back there, he's either going to rip it or he's going to run away from you. So if you don't put some pressure on him and you let him sit back there and just pick and choose what he wants to do, he's going to do it all day long. He's gonna gladly take anything that you can give him. So it's gonna be an interesting chess match to see if Jayden forces the Ravens to do some things that maybe they haven't been doing this year.
Yeah, and I think that I would probably anticipate the Ravens blitzing a bit more just to see if they can rattle Jayden early and see if that can carry over for the rest of the game. But the thing is, if they aren't successful, and if Jayden is either getting the ball out quickly, if he's extending plays, scrambling out of there, and especially using the short passing game, that could hurt the Ravens. But I would expect them to try some different things, because they love to, again, blitz their DBs off the edge. They love to confuse in terms of sending guys to the line and then not bringing everybody. But you're right. I think the Don Martindale Ravens, I mean, they were number 1 in blitz percentage, number 1 in blitz everything. But ever since he left, they've kind of scaled back that blitzing, and it's been less of a blitzing effort and more of calculated blitzing, as opposed to just live by the blitz, die by the blitz mentality, which certainly was there over those Don Martindale years. So going to be a really exciting game in Baltimore. Jayden Daniels versus Lamar Jackson.